Well, as children, we wished we could have it all. We remember going into the toy aisles as kids, asking our parents for things that we like, hoping to get them for birthdays, Christmas, or whatever special occasion, and sometimes not even a special occasion, just hoping they pull the item off the peg that you could tear the package open and come bring home as a kid to play with. But if you remember the blissfulness of the 1980s, you'll also remember maybe 1990s for some of us, as well as, my childhood overlap with the 1990s by and large as well. You remember having to be selective and basically just wondering, what should I get? What do I want to add? Do I need that? What if I see something I like more? Well, now that we're doing the same thing as adults and buying the toys that we want to get into our own personal collections, we can now go back and maybe, how can I put this? Grab the toys that we missed out on when we were children. So kind of making up for a little bit of lost time. Now, if you follow this channel for a little while, what you'll likely know is that I was big into Transformers. I was big into G.I. Joe. I was big into wrestling, but part of the topic today is going to surprise you a little bit. I got into Ninja Turtles as a kid for a while, but there were a lot of toys that I missed out on. And this particular stream pre-recording, which I'll tell you in a second why we're pre-recorded, is about making up for lost time, getting the toys that I never got as a kid, but either wanted or I just started getting into that toy line later in life, or I realized what I had missed and want to make up for that lost time. So what I'm going to do is welcome everyone to this edition of the Toy Connections online podcast stream, not live stream. And I'll tell you why right now, in case you're watching this on a premiere and you're wondering why I'm not acknowledging any of the comments. Well, at some point, Ken's got to do another toy show or go to a convention of some sort. And if you follow the channel in the past, you know that what I usually do is I do a pre-recording, something like this, and I air it. I either air it in the TKO time slot on the Sunday that I'm usually on, or I do it on the Saturday and try to catch more of the time zones that are not able to catch the usual TKO lives. And it's just because if I move it to the Saturday and I do it in the afternoon my time, then people who are on the other side of the world, it's Sunday morning for them, they can maybe catch it. Anyway, it's just all about convenience of time. So when I'm live, I'm kind of locked into my usual slot because I got adult things to do throughout the day. But anyway, again, this is going to be aired in a premiere format whereby the live chat will be active, but I won't actually be live because I'll be walking the toy sales floor somewhere, probably buying some goodies. Though a lot of the times when I'm doing that, I've got my phone with me and I can say, hello chat, sorry I'm not there. So if you've caught any of the TKO non-live premieres that have come on, that's why I've done it that way. But technical stuff aside, look, you see what I normally cover on the channel, and what I wanted to do today is basically talk about, as I've said earlier, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more right now, is toy lines that I sort of rediscovered as an adult. Not even sort of. I've rediscovered them, period, as an adult. And I'm just going to pull up some images here because these are toys that, depending on who's watching this stream, you may have gotten into them by and large as a kid. But me, Ken, only really got to experience them as an adult. And I'll just jump right into it. One of the key toy lines that I never got into as a kid, but I'm getting into now, is Visionaries. Leoric, Darkstorm, you see them on the left over there. And man, what a toy line, what an underrated line. I remember the theme song, I remember the commercials, I remember catching some of the episodes just here and there. I don't recall watching like full episodes or like waiting to catch the cartoon, but it would be on between other episodes. And Visionaries Knights of the Magical Light had a lot of potential. I know Hasbro had intended it to make it its next great toy line after Transformers and and G.I. Joe. Sorry, I'm recording this in the morning and I'm still not fully caffeinated. I've actually just finished another live stream and I'm recording this right after as a pre-record to air at a later date. Okay, sorry, I keep going back into the technical stuff. I think that it means it's time for a shot of coffee. So with Visionaries having so much potential and not getting it fully realized, I've always theorized that with Visionaries, it was because a lot of the characters were dressed too similarly. They weren't there just wasn't enough flamboyance in range, but the concept was good. Yes, they were colorful, but a lot of the colorness was dark, right? I didn't have the flamboyant range of every color on the spectrum like Transformers had. So I think Visionaries, if only it had, I think they tried to catch that like age 5, age 6 group, but I think if you'd hit like 11, 12-year-olds with that cartoon, like if that was a target audience, I think it would have taken off a little bit more. It was also 1987, so they were inundated with so much that was going on, right? And their season 2, if it had ever happened, would have been at the same time as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So there you are with like flamboyant teenage turtles literally trying to compete against that. I don't think Visionaries was going to last. But looking at it right now and realizing the missed opportunities and the potential of the line has made me want to get them more. I've talked about Holy Grails in the past. For those who aren't familiar with Visionaries, the playset known as the Dagger Assault is basically their holy grail. I keep saying basically this morning. I don't know why I keep repeating that same word. It's almost like I'm stalling while I collect my thoughts, but I'm here, I'm present and accounted for. So the Dagger Assault, especially in the box, just goes for, I think it's in the high hundreds. I don't know if the box version's up in the thousands yet, but that was an item that if you ever see it, every collector wants a lot for it if they sell it. But for me, what I wanted to do first was get into the main characters, and you'll see here, I've got Leoric and Darkstorm over here on the left side. I don't know why Darkstorm's helmet is not painted, but Leoric was the first figure I got, and then eventually I got Kryvak here on the far right. Sindar, who I happened to find on the card, I got him at the same toy show as I got Darkstorm. I did do a video on the Victoria's Ultimate Hobby and Toy Fair where I managed to get both Darkstorm and Sindar at the same time. As you can see, the Sindar and the bad guys are part of the Darkling Lords, and the good guys are part of the Spectral Knights. And it's funny because I realized I have more of the bad guys than I do the good guys. So quite interesting how that played out. But usually you just buy what you can find, right? That's just how it is in the vintage toy space. Now, am I going to keep buying Visionaries? I'm basically out of space, but these are small. And Adam from Go Figure, he's the one who made these stands that you can see the figures that the figures are on. So I bought a bunch of the stands. He sent them to me. You can see the staff fits nicely onto the stands. Like there's a little hole for the for the stands to sort of just click. Sorry, for the staves to click into. So yeah, and all these figures are complete. Obviously, the one on the card is complete. So I don't know, like maybe you can tell me in the comments whether you got into Visionaries as a kid, but if it was back in 1987, I was still very much into the Headmasters and movie hangover era. I say movie hangover because the movie was released in 86. Their figures came out in 86, and they were still being sold on store shelves in 87. And in 88, when Visionaries were still on store pegs, that's very much when I got into the sub-team era of G.I. Joe, the Tiger Force, the Iron Grenadiers. That's what I was collecting at the time. So there was just no capacity for me to get into Visionaries. It 90% escaped my purview other than seeing the commercial, remembering the theme song, remembering the catchphrase, remembering seeing some of this on store shelves. Like when I look at that Sindar in the package, it still gives me the chills because I remember seeing them on pegs. So there's still precious memories involved with Visionaries, but it's more just making up for lost time. And for anyone who is a big Visionaries fan, like I said, feel free to comment about it. Let me know how big a role Visionaries played in your life growing up. I still think there's some opportunity there if Hasbro ever wants to revisit that property. And Hasbro and Mattel as well both had a lot of properties that you could revisit, and stuff that never fully took off because of the sheer inundation of colorful characters that we had back then. As they say, kids will never know what they really missed out on back then. So that covers Visionaries, more or less. Happy to cover more Visionaries on this channel. This is going to surprise a lot of people. I did collect wrestling stuff as a kid, but it was the early 1990s Hasbro figures, the smaller figures. These larger LJN ones. Again, it's another one that mostly escaped my purview. I had a smaller Bendy's Hulk Hogan figure, but I never got the full 8-inch wrestlers. And you can see I developed quite a collection as an adult now. I'm still trying to find a few figures. Like, I'd still like to get Hacksaw Jim Duggan with his 2x4. I'd still like to, if I can, get Slick, the manager Slick. I do have Terry Funk there, albeit he's not complete. So, but if I ever do the history video that has Terry Funk in it, that particular series, I think he was in series 3. I need that figure, so I've got him incomplete now. I'll track down a complete one later, if I so choose. But it would shock some people, right? Like, I'm the biggest Bret Hart fan, one of the bigger Bret Hart fans. But back in the day, he was with the Hart Foundation, more or less. So I was more into Hogan, more into Macho Man, more into Andre. I never really got into Bret until closer to the early 1990s. And someone who is familiar with wrestling to a large degree is my good friend Gazz, who we've streamed together a few times, but he's here to join us right now. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm on mute. Hey, what's going on?
It's all good.
Glad to be back.
Yeah. At the time of this recording, we just finished a live stream, and here I am roping poor Gazz back in to talk about toy lines I missed as a kid. And yes, Gazz, I missed LJN wrestling as a kid. I had the one Bendy's Hogan figure, but I mostly got into the smaller Hasbro figures that came after the fact. So my entire LJN wrestling collection developed in my adult years, even though I watched wrestling all the time as a kid. And that'll surprise a lot of people. Probably surprises you.
Well, actually, I'm not surprised because as a kid, I didn't collect the wrestling figures. I think we had thumb wrestlers.
Yes.
But I
had the Bendies.
We never got into the actual figures themselves. I mean, big wrestling fans. We used to love watching it, but playtime was G.I. Joe cars. Basically.
And I always consider, like, even though a lot of people consider it too basic of a playset, the ring with the solid blue steel cage, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like, that is a playset of playsets.
I think one of my friends had it, and we used to use like Motu figures in there. I believe we would like wrestle Motu figures in Thundercats because he had all. I had one of those friends that had a lot of different toys. His parents were generous enough to get him all the toys he wanted.
Yeah, I'd like to feel my parents were generous, but what I said in the preamble here is that I stuck to G.I. Joe and Transformers by and large, and then Turtles when they came around. So I didn't get around to the wrestling stuff because when I looked at the figures, they weren't articulated. So I'm like, there's only so much I can do with them. So I'm not going to go too deep down this rabbit hole. And then I never did. I got the one Bendy's Hogan, and it was smaller than the 8-inch wrestling figures that the other kids were bringing to school. So they want to like wrestle with me, and I'd be like, your figure's like twice the size. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But like,
now you've made up more than enough for it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is made up for lost time. And like, you had characters like Mean Gene, who, a lot of the Mean Gene figures I find are actually quite clean because you didn't use him to bash around, right? Or Elizabeth or the Ref, because they weren't really characters in the ring. Same with Vince McMahon, Bobby the Brain, obviously. Though Captain Lou, right, aka Mario. The Bobby the Brain, you would like to beat him up.
You still like Bobby the Brain.
Yeah, but he was technically a bad guy, right? Even though he was funny as hell.
Let me correct myself. I liked him when he was in WCW. I remember him more from
as a commentator.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is going to shock a lot of people that I didn't collect wrestling as a kid. But I talk wrestling enough on this channel. Now, just before you hopped on, Gazz, I did go on a little bit about the Visionary stuff that I got started on as an adult. And I mentioned how I remember the theme song. I remember the commercials. I just thought it was a little too dark. And the way the characters talked was a little too different to catch on with, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And yeah, you've got Leoric and the Bright, but by and large, it was a dark theme, right? You didn't have the flashiness color with the bright backgrounds of G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Ninja Turtles. And this was caught in that 1987 gap where G.I. Joe and Transformers were just starting to decline, right? Yeah. It was that 4th abbreviated season of Transformers in North America, even though they carried on it overseas. It was a G.I. Joe movie, but they were still airing on reruns at the time. A lot of people didn't know that they were canceled, right? And it was right before Ninja Turtles took off. So Visionaries got caught right in that little gap.
These are also a little bit bigger than Joe's, right?
Yeah, they're 4 1/4 or 4.5 inches, so they technically weren't scale. They're not from Earth; they're from Prismos. So in theory, you can say they're in scale.
Yeah,
They might not be humans.
The beauty. Well, we all aren't the same size, so it works. But I mean,
Oh yeah,
I don't recall seeing these in the store. I don't recall myself. I think 87, 88 was like when I kind of like wane off of.
Yeah, I recall seeing them in
allowance
stores, but not much. So but
if I did see this, I would think that I probably would have gotten one or two of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Other stuff I missed out on as a kid. Now here's a bit of a hodgepodge of what I missed out on as a kid, right? Yeah. Obviously I knew what A-Team was. I'd heard of Bravestarr, watched some Knight Rider, Thundercats, and all that. But this is everything. This is a lot of the stuff I missed out on as a kid, right? Like Bravestarr was in that 87 gap as well, just like Visionaries, but it was Mattel's line as opposed to Hasbro's. Watching the cartoons as a kid, like I mentioned, the episode, The Price, we just talked about recently.
Yeah.
The sealed Bravestarr there, the sealed Mr. T, which I'm sure you're a mark for. And the Michael Knight, my friend is in the middle of, he was in the middle of fixing my kit car to get the electronics working, and then he moved to Calgary. And he's gonna get some time to fix it, but he's been busy with house renos and all that. So I told him, Mark, don't worry about it. Just fix it when you get time. I don't care if I get it in 2025. I'll just deal with Michael Knight for now.
I think it's going to be a hard fix though, because if I'm correct, it's like a little mini record player.
Yeah, that's what it is. But he's up for the task. He wants to do it, so he's like, all right.
I always wanted that kit with Michael Knight. I never got one as a kid. My friend had one. One of my friends had one, and it was the coolest. It was cool just seeing it. But the scale, it was too big for everything else that we were playing with at the time, like G.I. Joes. Even the A-Team figures, like not those, but the little ones.
Yeah,
like
the smaller Galoob ones. Yeah. That Mr. But it could kind of scale with this Mr. T. But that Mr. T is way too bulky compared to the Michael Knight. But if I ever get back into the Knight Rider episodes, maybe I'll do a history on that, like I did with the A-Team.
I was in I think Target a couple of weeks ago, and I forget the diecast line. They make the cars, like diecast cars.
Ertl?
Not Ertl.
Hot Wheels?
No, it was like Greenlight or something like that. I don't know, something like that. They had both kit and car, and I was debating on whether to buy them. I'm like, because I don't have any Knight Rider stuff, and I'm like, I should get these, and I didn't get them, and now I'm like wishing I had. Still one of those. Well,
you live in the Boston, New England area, right? Like there'll be toy shows where you'll suddenly just see the old Kenner kit and Michael Knight.
Yeah,
you'll just walk right by it. Maybe you'll see it at Joe Fest. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
If I end up at Joe Fest, that's when this episode's gonna air. If not, then I'll air it at the next toy show.
We can watch it together.
We watch it together. Like Ken and Gazz are live, but they're standing next to us talking right now. So
we cloned ourselves.
We cloned ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. I've already talked a bit about Bravestarr. And
Bravestarr is unique. I vaguely remember the cartoon. I don't remember seeing any of the figures, but I'm thinking if I had seen those in the stores, I would have bought them.
And they're bigger figures too, right?
Yeah. Bravestarr was really good.
Yeah, I'd like to get a Tex Hex. I had a chance at an acrylic case sealed Tex Hex, but I'm like, I don't want to make this acrylic case thing like an ongoing habit, right? So I'll just get the main good guy, and then the A-Team icon, and depending who you talk to, maybe you like Hannibal better, but I'm a Mr. T guy, so
that's the beauty. The beauty of the A-Team is like all 4 characters are really good. All 4 characters are unique in their own way, and you can have a favorite and still like the other guys as much. You
know what? I always thought that people's favorite would be T or Hannibal, but like one of my best friends, Peter, was like, "No, Murdoch was my favorite." I'm like, "Wow,
Murdoch." I love Murdoch. Hannibal's my favorite, obviously, because he's the leader. But
yes,
Murdoch is like a close second favorite because Dwight Schultz in that show, he deserves an Emmy.
Oh, he's so good.
He's so good in that show.
Yeah.
So good. So many. I mean, if you think about like versatile actor, this guy created characters within characters.
Yeah,
in that show.
Schultz was a worldly talent and a little underrated in the history of Hollywood. Like if you mention Dwight Schultz, the people, it's kind of like, oh yeah, him, he was good, but he's not top of mind. You know what I mean?
And remember this. I think we talked about this before in the pilot episode of the A-Team. The guy that was playing, I forget his name. The guy who was playing Face,
Dirk Benedict. No, Tim
Dunnigan.
Dunnigan.
Yeah, said to Dwight Schultz, he says, I don't think the producer likes you. I think you're going to get fired. To Dwight Schultz.
And then Dunnigan was the one that got let go.
Because he thought he was too young to play a Vietnam vet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he ended up on Captain Power, which is a line I didn't miss out on as a kid. Yeah. But I haven't had the desire to collect as an adult. That's, if anyone wants to mention Captain Power, that's what I want to call to action for people in the comment section. What did they miss out on as a kid that they now get as an adult? Otherwise, if it's just what did you miss out on as a kid, period, you'd go on for ages. But yeah, A-Team stuff, Gazz. I mean, we could go on for ages about A-Team.
A-Team was I asked for them a lot for the figures when I was a kid. I never got them.
Well, you know,
probably because they couldn't find them. That's my guess. Having
been a good friend of yours for the past year and a bit now, it's like you've opened my mind up to things I would not have looked at more closely. Like if you said, do you remember A-Team? Do you remember Knight Rider? Do you remember Megaforce? Oh, I didn't know Megaforce at all. But like, because of your fond memories of some of these franchises has got me thinking, I need to look at this in the eyes of an adult, not as a 5-year-old looking at the screen. And because I didn't even know the A-Team characters' names as a kid. I had I knew Mr. T, but I didn't call him B.A. Baracus. I just called him Mr. T. Yeah. Otherwise, there was old leader guy, weird guy, and handsome guy. That's all I knew them as, right? Like, because I was 5, right? Yeah. And Knight Rider, I remembered it. My memory was so vague as a kid that I'd forgotten that he's the same guy in Baywatch. When I stopped watching Knight Rider as a kid and 10 years later he showed up on Baywatch, I didn't relate. Obviously, over the years, I figured it out. But until I started talking to you, I wasn't like YouTubing old Knight Rider scenes and old A-Team scenes and all that. I think you and Zazel had me watch Flight of the Navigator a while ago. That's a
great movie,
right? I watched most of Megaforce with you, and then I missed a bit, and then I YouTubed the ending with the flying bike. So there's about this 20-minute gap in the middle I still haven't seen. But your memories
you missed.
Oh, damn it! But your memories are kind of helping me reignite the parts of the childhood, like the doors that were only like open, but I never stepped through. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, like the A-Team for me, it's almost like I grew up with the A-Team. I watched them prime time when I was a kid. You know, loved it. I think it was on Tuesday nights. I would watch it every Tuesday night. But then it was on reruns, and I would, come home from school, watch my cartoons, do my homework, and then about like 7 o'clock on, I would put on this channel, and they would have reruns of shows like. TNG was on 8 o'clock every night. I would watch the A-Team every night. I would watch it. And it was almost memories. Like four like older brothers that I never had. Just watch. It's just most of my childhood was just watching the A-Team, basically.
Love it. I got to catch more episodes in full. Like it was on Tubi TV for a while, but I don't think it is anymore. So while I watched a bunch of it in the run up to me making that A-Team 16-minute like history of episodes, I know I missed some stuff, right?
Well, you could probably buy the DVD set for pretty.
Probably could, right? If I actually use my damn DVD player, which I don't. So
or Blu-ray.
Blu-ray, yeah. And some people are going to comment on the Thundercats there. Yes, I do have. Actually, it's right here. Don't know why I didn't put in the photo, but I do have Lion-O. And Panthro, and Jackalman and Mumra were sent to me by Adam over at Go Figure.
Adam's such a nice dude.
Yeah, and I was the Visionary stands that I got are from him as well.
Oh, cool.
He just sent me these Thundercats, and it's like enjoy the vintage stuff because he knew I was getting into the Super 7 stuff. So I'm counting that as a line that I missed out on as a kid, and I'm only talking vintage lines in this particular case.
Yeah.
Obviously, like. If I didn't have the opportunity to collect Super 7 Thundercats or Masters of the Universe classics as a kid, so I'm only talking about stuff I missed out on as a kid that I'm now getting as an adult.
I'm just going to mention, because you brought it up, the Super 7, I just saw in person for the first time the G.I. Joes. I saw Duke's Snake Eyes and a bat, and I was tempted to buy them.
I saw them at the last 2 toy shows, and I was a little tempted, but there was too much of this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like the same toy show that I got the Mr. T that you see there and the Bravestarr was the first time I saw the Super 7 Joes in person.
I mean, they look great. I mean, the price tag's a little bit up there, but I don't think I'll be collecting them, but I think I might pick up 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely kind of want to get Duke, but.
Well, you like your leaders, right? You like Duke. He's one of your favorite characters, if not your favorite.
Not my favorite, but one of my favorite. Yeah.
But your favorite turtle is Leo. Your favorite A-Team is Hannibal.
Yeah.
Right. So.
I mean, how can you not like Leo? He's got the katanas.
He's my favorite turtle as well. But for whatever reason, for A-Team, well, not for whatever reason, for wrestling reasons, I trend towards Mr. T.
Mr. T's a hard character not to like in that.
Yeah.
I love BA.
You know what's funny is watching as a kid and watching as an adult. Like, remember how we got into the discussion about anti-heroes, and I was like, "Is Mr. T an anti-hero?" Because he kind of looks like an anti-hero, but he's not. He's actually just the tough guy.
If you look at his character in, sorry, I don't mean to cut you up.
No, fine,
if you look at his character in the A-Team, yeah, he is the tough guy, and you could say that he's an anti-hero because of the violence. But if you look at his character in the show, it's like when he's not with the team, he's working with kids in his neighborhood.
Yeah, he's actually like the code of honor is actually the closest to the book.
If you imagine it in your mind, while the A-Team is going on, I believe that Mr. T cartoon was on Saturday morning.
It was the cartoon.
So you can kind of imagine that as he's B.A. Baracus, when he's not with the team, he's on the adventures with the gymnastics team.
Absolutely, right? And it's actually Hannibal who has more anti-hero characteristics.
A little, yeah.
A little bit. Not too much, but a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And we got a bit of a reunion. Anthony Roma was about to join us, and then he dropped off. I'm just gonna message him. Saw you was gonna plus you in. Sorry, I sent this to this stream to Tony Romo as well. And I just wanted to get to the end of my thought before I plussed him in, but it seems like he's dropped off the back of the back end of StreamYard. But anyway, yeah, it's like you said, like Mr. T was working with kids. He had the cartoon, so he was actually kind of like the friendly. I know he's not that tall, but he was kind of like the friendly giant. Oh, there he is. He's back, Tony.
There he is.
What's going on?
Hey.
All right, I saw you drop in and then dropped out. Then I was about to. I covered my mouse to plus you in, and suddenly you were gone.
The superstar of a torn kind of mood.
Yeah, the superstar. Yeah. You've missed my my wrestling and Visionaries part of the conversation, Tony. But I suppose you could catch it on the replay, unless you want to weigh in on. Yeah,
I'm good. Yeah,
no, we're talking about toys. Toys I missed out on as a kid, specifically vintage that I missed out as a kid that I'm collecting.
Nice.
Now.
Okay.
Right. So that's why I said like LJN wrestling was one that I missed out on as a kid, even though I had one Bendy's wrestler, but I mostly collected the smaller Hasbros, and I completely missed Visionaries as a kid. I knew what it was, but I never asked for it at the store. And then here's the hodgepodge of stuff between Thundercats, Knight Rider, Bravestarr, and A-Team that I'm collecting all casually as an adult. I'm into too many things. It's bad. Now,
nice.
Oh my God! Look,
what?
His emblem is Hobbs.
It is.
Tony's okay.
Yeah.
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger. Yeah. Angry Battle Cat. I'm only going to touch on this very briefly because I don't think it really counts. Is the Diaclone era of Transformers. I never had a chance at it, but it's technically vintage and it's technically not Transformers, even though I keep lumping it into the Transformers conversation.
But I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this though. You didn't really miss out as a kid because you didn't know you were collecting Transformers, and essentially it's the same thing. You know?
Exactly, right. That's why Ironhide is a black van here rather than red, and that's why Ratchet is in a different type of packaging in the Diaclone Italian gig packaging. But yeah, I didn't really miss out on it as a kid because I got the Transformers that came after. But yeah, this doesn't really count as something I missed as a kid, but I am collecting it heavily as an adult, and they each carry a hefty price tag. So I feel grossed out every time I buy one, but I'm still happy every time I buy one because they're the pre-Transformers, right?
I'm gonna say this. And was anybody else let down by Ironhide when you saw him transformed and you looked at the cartoon and you looked at him and you went, it's not quite him.
It's not. I had to buy a third-party head to get it to look good. Yeah.
No, but that black van looks cool.
Oh,
imagine a red stripe going down the side.
And if you look, the Diaclones, a lot of them actually came with mini drivers.
Yeah.
Right. In Italy, they didn't all come with drivers. You can tell it's Italian because of the company Gig made it, not the Cara. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to gloss over this one quickly because it doesn't really count, but it sort of does. But line I missed out on as a kid but never had a chance at, but I'm glad to collect now, the 12-inch Joes.
Wow.
Are you going to dive in?
The dolls.
The dolls.
You can't really say this. They're not dolls.
Yeah.
Action figure.
Yeah.
Action figure. No.
I am going to dive in here and there.
Oh, yeah.
Gazz, I'm working on a video right now. It might air by the time this pre-recording comes out. Because Tony, the reason I'm doing this is because I'll probably be at a toy show and need to do a TKO. So I'm pre-recording this, and you two happen to be doing a live with me earlier. Nice. This was recorded in April, so I have no idea when this is actually going to air. But yeah, I am working on a video on the evolution of Toys, the Green Beret. And it tracks the history of the Green Beret from the 1966 era through to Lieutenant Falcon, the iterations of Lieutenant Falcon and the classified Falcon. And I also touch a little bit on Joe Colton because he was released in 1994 as a convention/mail-away exclusive, and he had the beret on and was classified as a Green Beret. So that's why when I went back and saw the 60s Joes at a toy show, I jumped on getting the Green Beret right away because it just represents so much. It's like the peak of the peak for me.
Yeah. So collecting these, are you going to go specifically for a certain type or
yes, just a certain type?
There's a lot of outfits and all that.
There is. So basically what it is the Green Beret, when I got him, you'll see this one has brown hair. If you look closely, when I got him, he had blonde hair, and I switched the body because I was like, I want him to look more like Falcon. It's a bit different. And if Ryan Sweeney were here, he'd be saying, you're making a connection that doesn't really exist. And I'm like, I know it doesn't. But like, normally you take, sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
No, normally you take what you knew as a kid and you go forward facing, right? Like you take Optimus Prime and then the Beast Wars Optimus Primal and then the live action one that's still voiced by Peter Cullen. You take a forward facing approach and look at where it started. With G.I. Joe, the beauty of it is we all did kind of started in the middle. We started with Real American Hero. And instead of looking forward at how that evolved, I'm looking backwards at where it started. So to me, even though this doll-ish character is not Falcon, to me, I see Falcon and then I reconcile it back to it was an unnamed character in the 60s. Yeah, that's how I did it. And the action soldier. Sorry, guys, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I can understand that your connection there, that you're making a connection for yourself.
Yes.
For this character, for this figure.
Yes.
Linked to
because I love toy history. You know, I just study toy history. You know, like if there was an actual like university degree on toy history, I would have taken that. Right. And I'd probably still be in school trying to get a PhD to this day.
I think we'd all be there, right?
Oh, we'd all be there. Like that's not unique to just me. And then the action soldier next to it, it's not actually shorter. It's just the way it's standing. I switched them out. Like the action soldier came with the brown hair and the Green Beret came with the blonde hair, but I switched them, and you can't see the hair color anyway on the action soldier because to me that's where G.I. Joe started in 1964. It's with the action soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the character of Joe Colton, right? was one of the action soldiers. Like they called him the original G.I. Joe, who they named the team after. So, and because he was in the Army, specifically Army, not Navy, Air Force. I don't know if he went to the Marines later. But to me, when I look at the action soldier, it could be G.I. Joe Colton. This is the way I look at that character. And I know that, I don't know when that outfit came out. I know there's the basic fatigues and the basic cap, which I have. I've got the cap and I've got the basic fatigues underneath that fatigue jacket. That's the 1964 action soldier. And this loadout he's carrying is called the Combat Attack Set.
Yeah.
I have a complete combat attack set, and then there's some parts like the backpack with the sleeping bag, and he's got a water bottle that he's carrying behind him. That came from a different set, from like a field set, and then the grenade launcher he's carrying is, I don't even know what set that's from, but he basically comes. He's the complete action soldier with the combat attack clothing set and parts of the field set. And a grenade launcher. You two might have no idea what I'm talking about. I was studying all this in Daryl DePriest's book, which is right above me here. That's how I was able to figure out what it was. I didn't know what it was 2 weeks ago either. So, yeah. And to answer your question, Gaz, I will probably be getting the Dress Marine. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. And if I can reach my book here and look at the field, the Dress Marine.
Those guys had some huge dog tags.
Yeah, oh, yeah, they do have some huge dog tags, right? You'll know exactly where I'm going with this when you see what I show you. But there it is. Okay, if I hold it up to the camera, you see the gentleman in blue there.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. What do you like? You know where I'm going with this.
You're gonna go gung ho.
Version 2 gung ho, and there was for sale. At the same time, I bought those two, and I'd already spent way too much just buying those two. I am going to get that set. It's a little bit cheaper and more common. That's why I didn't get it. It's not as popular among the vintage 1960s collectors. I'm not sure why, but it was like a fraction of the price of the other two. Now, that one, the body was really beat up, but the uniform was good, so I didn't grab it for a couple of reasons. One, it wasn't in the right condition, and two, I knew the other two were more popular. And I knew I'd have a second chance at that one, but I'm gonna get that one because of the gung ho connection, like the loose gung ho backwards facing connection, as I call it, and also because I just like it, right? And if I can, I'll try to get the Royal Canadian Mountie, but that's like one of the most expensive figures in the line. Oh, it's up in the 4 digits, so I kind of
I would think that's a must for you.
Yeah,
it is. But where's my connection to the vintage Joe? That's just a connection to me as a Canadian.
There's no connection. You're Canadian, unless you don't want to go because of Ryan was the Mountie.
No, I'm no longer bitter at Ryan for handing me my ass in the Slaughterhouse Wrestling Championship.
Do they have a
there is no connection.
Toy connections, yeah.
There a sailor? There's a sailor one, isn't
there? Yeah, there's an action sailor, and there's different uniforms for the action sailor.
So my only question for you is, I should say, more concern is because you're circling a dangerous rabbit hole.
Very much so.
Because once you dive into that, I mean, you're talking the Action Force stuff or Action Man stuff, and
yes,
that is pretty deep, and they got some beautiful figures.
Yeah, because at some point they veered off from the G.I. Joe path and started doing some of the British soldiers, right? And I think in both lines, I think there's a Frogman you could get in the as an optional action sailor loadout, and that can connect back to Torpedo, right?
Yeah, but see,
another evolution.
This is where I start to worry about you because that's a dangerous
big old rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So Gaz, you've seen me through buying stupid priced play sets, and you've seen my toy hauls at shows.
But then you just pop up with this like with a bunch of stuff we just bought, and I'm like, guy, why'd you buy those? No.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Story of my life.
Look, we all have those moments. I mean, I passed up. I went yesterday. For me and a friend of mine, we went to my shop, and I was gonna buy a Rio Blast, vintage Rio Blast from Motu.
Yeah,
and I'm not a Motu fan, but I picked that character as my favorite because
yeah, Westernish.
Yeah, Westernish. So I passed on them, and then I was driving by a small comic book store and decided to pull in there and check it out. And what did I find in there? A 3 3/4 Shogun Warriors Grandizer.
Oh,
diecast.
Oh,
And I'm
is
like,
this where I say shoot in, or is that not the right one?
shoot in, Grandizer go. And I was like, I just said, I need that right now. Take it out of the case. That's it. And it just happened to be the same price as the real Blast. So I made out. But I mean, like, there's those moments where you just pop up and you're like, you just need it. Because
you know, in your gut
that you wanted for like your entire thing. That would be like one of the toy lines that I wish that I got when I was a kid. Was a Shogun.
I was gonna jump on that next. Actually, the green beret's right here, and I looked at it for multiple toy shows before I bought it. But I wanted to touch on that next, and I may as well jump to you on this one, Gaz, as we kind of wrap the stream down. But Grandizer, and I guess that would be one that you collected as an adult that you didn't get a chance at as a kid.
I want to collect it as an adult, but it's too pricey to get into.
Yeah.
It's
well,
like
are there others?
Everything that I mean, I have a couple of models that I bought, some Bandai models that were, reasonably priced to put together myself. But as in for like diecast stuff or like the vintage stuff, it's just too pricey for me to get into. And I want to, but it's like I can't justify spending. I love it, but I can't justify spending that much money on it. I mean, just a basic figure, you're talking like 200 plus.
Damn.
And it's like I don't want to spend that much money on that. It's a lot. It's a lot of money, and that's not even the Shogun stuff. This is like the newer stuff.
Yes.
And as a kid, I watched. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Force 5. Do you remember that show?
I remember the name.
Yeah, it's like 5 Japanese animated movies about giant robos. I think like 3 of them were giant robos, super giant robos, and like one was 3 guys flying around in ships and stuff. But we wanted these toys. We wanted these as toys so bad, and those of us that watched it as kids, and here we had a store that sold them. Never got to go. Mom would never take me, right? But never saw it in the toy stores. You never seen it in toy stores. I like Robotech is another line that I wanted so bad. But when I saw the actual toys, the Matchbox stuff, I was like, I'm not buying that. That looks dumb. That doesn't look anything like what's on TV. The jets don't even transform into the Veritex. Don't even transform. Why am I going to buy that? So we got these little knockoff things that we found at the mall that would break after like 3 or 4 playtimes with, right?
That's the problem with some of the fragility of those. But were there any other toys? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, were there any other toy lines that you wished that you're getting into now, you didn't really get into as a kid?
Well, all right. So now,
because you have the money now.
Yeah. Now looking back, like I was too young, and it was probably already gone by the time any of these 3 toy lines came up were about. But like the $6 Million Man, a Battlestar. Yeah, I have a doll. I have one too. Battlestar
with his eye in the back of the head.
Yeah. I have that one. I picked it up cheap. It doesn't have the logo on it. I picked it up real cheap.
Does it have a red tracksuit?
Yeah, red tracksuit. Doesn't have the logo on it. He didn't come with the engine block, but all he just wanted was the figure itself. Yeah. Just to say I have one. I had one as a kid, but long gone. But yeah, the $6 Million Man. It's like a Buck Rogers, those 3 3/4 figures. I wish I wish I had those as a kid because I love Buck Rogers. I didn't even know they existed back then, to tell you the truth. And then I think like Battlestar. But looking at the figures now, I don't want them.
Okay.
But if as a kid, I would have loved them.
Get a Viper, colonial.
Having a Viper,
Cylon Raider.
Yeah, I used to build those out of Legos, and then have the little Lego pilots and all that stuff.
Gaz, this. Like, I'm more into the 2003 reimagining BSG series than I am compared to the 1979 one.
All good.
It's all good, but like the Viper looks so similar anyway.
Yeah.
If I had one of the old, I think Mattel made the old Vipers.
Yeah.
It would look similar enough, and it would feel like I got a vintage Viper. The Raiders look a bit different, I think.
Yeah, because they look like a Batwing in that show, basically, right?
Yeah.
There was like one episode, I think, where they had the classic Raiders in them.
Okay. All right. Tony, what about you? Lines you're collecting now that you missed out as or do you not do vintage? Like I know a lot of
not too many vintage, but I regret not getting but that I think I can get now and be done really quick. I never had that one badass Voltron with all the lions that you connect them and you can unconnect them and then they're turned into lions. There's a few lines that did that.
Well, there's the Panosh Place one.
Yeah, the one that is the end all be all. That's whatever one that is. That all the lions, not the vehicle one. I never got into that one. The cartoon was crazy.
That was mine. That was the one I wanted.
The vehicle one with the thing on the chest and all that.
Yeah,
I was a fan of the lions, and
I had the Panosh one as a kid. So
yeah, but that's the one I could realistically get now and be done. 5 lions, all of that, good. I'm going back, and I'm glad McFarlane got the little superpowers out.
Yes,
because I sold mine, and he's coming out with these, and I'm like, that's enough nostalgia. That's a big nostalgia collect for me, and they're only $10. You know,
can't beat that, right?
I can't beat it. So
you know what?
The day I found Dark Side for $4 clearance, I wasn't going to get them. I was just going to get the heroes, and I couldn't pass that. $4.
There you go. Right.
You can't.
In a few years, those are going to be worth a lot because people are going to be like, "Oh my God, they made these!" Because people are, not everyone's getting into it right now, right? We're in that post-pandemic time,
dude.
Where people went back to work, their mind is off of toys, they'll resettle it, and then they'll go back and get those. So the fact you're getting them for $10 right now, it's good to go, right? They're a little off scale from the vintage ones, but depending on how
they're made this right, basically.
But you know what they're making me do? They're making me look online for roughed up, dinged up original superpowers because I'll just take my customizing skills from Joe's and Marvel Legends and maybe start customizing up superpowers. That'd be easy because they're not that articulated.
That's right. So you don't have as many joints to fight.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. I'm like, and once I do that, what other lines can I start doing?
Oh boy.
You know what I mean? It's like they're easy. I have my Robin from the original superpowers, the Batman and Robin, and you know how the toes get white or the paint flake. I already repainted them. They look great now.
Well, at some point I got to bring you on to talk customizing. Maybe you and Ryan can talk a little bit about how you expand the range of your characters through customization, because you get more satisfaction on your G.I. Joe classified figures by buying combination of gridiron stuff, base 6-inch bodies from any toy line out there. You seem to get more satisfaction from that than buying the figure. Yeah, I do, because I talked to Chad, articulated Chad a little bit about it, because you know how he hates 6-inch. He's O-ring straight up, and old school, but he customizes too. So I was saying, I got into the Joe line with the thoughts of customizing them because I didn't like the armor on Duke. I didn't like they look good, but from my background coming from customizing Marvel Legends, I can make them look the way I want to. Yes.
And do that up and post them and see if people like them. And luckily they the community's been great. Showing me mad love and all my customs, and
I've shared a bunch of your stuff before.
Oh man,
I put some of them in videos, right?
I know. And there's I was going through them the other day. I'm like, there's just a maybe not even a handful of ones I didn't touch. You don't have to touch that old school Roadblock. You don't have to touch that old school Gung Ho, really. I mean, I gave him boots from the Cobra Viper, because it looked like his vintage boots. And you don't have to touch Barbecue. There's everyone else. I made him more to my liking in the Real American Hero look.
Remember I was like teasing, like, I might want you to commission a figure for me, but then you saw my recent toy hauls, and I was like, I'm buying all this vintage right now. I'm not sure I want to just splurge whatever it would cost on on a commission right now. Just
out of curiosity, what do you charge for commission to do a
commission? If I do start getting into commissions right now, nothing. I'm not really doing any commissions, but I'm starting to maybe I should just do some for friends like you guys and whoever, it's more practice. I have fun doing it until you keep doing. If you start doing commissions, it might take the fun out of it, and it's like work. Okay, he wants it by what date, and I gotta make time to do it because you guys are paying me for it, But I don't know what. I talked to Giles Gifford, Yo Joe ARH. What should I charge for this if I start doing that? And it's kind of difficult because you get into the fact of, okay, you like mine, you want it just like mine. It has 5 or 6 pieces from different figures that are. I was
gonna say, how do you source the figures?
Exactly, right? It's crazy. Right. Or I'll tell them, okay, look, you gather the materials, send them, and then it's going to be cheaper for you, easier for me, because unless you then a blank slate of I want it just like yours. You sure? You know what I got to do to find all those pieces?
And you know how many months it's going to take, and then what do I got to do with the spare pieces?
Exactly. So essentially, what you're saying is, if I can gather the parts for an Ace Hunter, you can create one.
Yes.
Yes.
If you could gather the parts, I'll hook it up.
All right. Awesome. I love the thought of that.
He's not that hard. What are you gonna do? A gold unitard? What's he wearing?
I figure you use a Snake Eyes version 1 for classified, right? Body, because he wears a skin tight suit, right?
Yeah.
Use Outback head, preferably the Tiger Force version because it's white, it's easier to paint, right? Mm-hmm. And then you just gotta get some big ass boots for him. That's it.
Make him look snazzy. Yeah.
Whatever, dude. Just do it.
Well, anyway, I got to wrap up here.
Right on.
Because we were on earlier, even though when this airs, people won't know that. Anything you two want to close out with customs or stuff you're finding now or stuff you're going to try to find later? Anything you two want to close out on, or have you said your piece?
I'm good. I just finished that Grand Slam one. I'm like, as soon as Mark comes out with a loadout, I'm like, I know what I can do with that. And you look at other people's stuff and I'm like, okay, I've got some stuff that I already have that I can make a Grand Slam. I'm almost done with like original 13. I need to do a flash, a clutch, and I'm almost done. So
did you did you do a Starduster?
No, I didn't do a Starduster yet.
I was gonna say that's a good loadout. So
yeah, that's a good loadout.
Anyway,
that was a figure that I wanted to get, but he's super pricey, so I got a black. I think it's a black major one.
Yeah, with the reverse rivets. Yeah, he was a mail away. Yeah,
mail away. Okay.
The black major one has the reverse rivets on the shoulders. That's why.
He looks really cool.
It's amazing.
Pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Tiger Force version of Starduster from Black Major that I just love.
Really?
Nice. Yeah. So
Black Major's got some nice stuff.
Totally.
Nice figures, especially 3 3/4. Yeah.
We should talk more about Black Major when we get a chance, Gazz. Anyway. All right. Anything you want to wrap up with, Gazz, or
No, I'm like in limbo right now. I don't know. I'm just buying classified. I haven't bought like any vintage Joes in a while.
Fair enough.
So, but other than that, I'm just chilling, waiting for Joe Fest.
Yep, which might be when this airs. So, yeah. All right, gents. We'll wrap up here. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm gonna put the Instagram links to follow you two in the description below. Sometimes I forget, but if I do, just slap me in the face. I forgot when I looked at my phone earlier because I forgot to credit somebody on Instagram because I used their image for my thumbnail. So that's why I looked down on my phone earlier. I was like, oh crap, sorry, Colin. If you watch the stream, Colin, that's fine. Anyway, all right. Gents, thank you both for coming on. I know we were on earlier and for being so reliable as, not just as content creator, helper, co-hosts and guests, but as friends in general. You two are some of the best. So
thanks, man.
Thanks.
You too, brother.
Pleasure.
All right. I got a jet. See you later. And thanks again. Take care.
See you guys.
See you.